Back home now, and there's been a sharp rise in the number of parents being prosecuted for taking their children out of school during term time, up by more than a fifth. In 2015, nearly 15,000 people were found guilty of at least 2 truancy-related offences. The vast majority were fined, a total of almost 11,500 in fact, and the cost was an average fine of £176. In extreme cases, parents were even sent to prison. 8 went to jail in 2015. That was actually down on the year before. So, what do parents think?
4 or 6 hours that could cost us £2,000 or £3,000 on a planned holiday. It's not going to happen. I actually think the head teachers, who are probably parents themselves, would recognise that.
I think it's ridiculous. I think parents should have freedom with their children. I think as long as their children are doing well in school and they're meeting all those requirements, I think parents should have the rights to make decisions on when their kids are in school.
If £172 is the only punitive measure you're going to get for saving, let's say, £1,000 on a holiday, I would do it.
Well, the number of parents being fined and prosecuted on the rise. Let's speak to a parent who has been fined for taking her son out of school, Nazleen Ebrahim. Good morning to you, Nazleen. Perhaps you could explain to us the circumstances under which you took your son out of school for a holiday.
Hello. Yeah, our son, he suffers from cystic fibrosis, so it's a genetic illness. It's a life-limiting illness, and there's times when he's well enough to travel, and there's times when he's not permitted to travel because of his condition. So we asked permission from the doctors when he was a bit better, if we could take him on holiday for a couple of weeks. And the doctor said at the moment he seems well, so it would be a good idea to take him. And so we asked the school permission. And we took him, thinking that they will be aware that what our son goes through, they have a personal relationship with him on a day-to-day basis. So we thought they'd be understanding. When we came back from our holiday, which overlapped into the Christmas holidays, so he wasn't off for too many days, but it was in December, and we only went for 2 weeks. As we came back, we received a fine. It's per parent per child. At first, I was a bit baffled. We went to the school, and the school sort of went, "You're going to have to speak to the council." So we went to the council, and then we were yo-yoed back to the school. So initially, nobody was ready to take the blame. But we were agitated by the fact that the school knew Rayhan's condition and that they were aware if it was a life-limiting illness.
So Nazleen, your issue, because a lot of people are getting in touch with us this morning and saying there should be a common sense approach. Parents should talk to schools, and if there are circumstances such as Rayhan's, like you said, sometimes he's well enough to go on holiday, sometimes he isn't. There should be an understanding between the school and the parents. But what you're saying is that it's actually being taken out of the school's hands, and it's the local councils or local authorities who are taking a stand on this.
It's an umbrella policy in place where the school have a certain amount of discretion. So the school approached the council and told the council that Rayhan's absence was unauthorised. So my initial hurdle was, surely the school deal with Rayhan on a day-to-day basis and they'll be aware of his situation and his medical needs. And then when I approached the council to see if there'll be any understanding or leeway from their perspective, it was the same, which is agitating and frustrating for a parent because there's this umbrella policy in place for all children and there's no exceptions to the rule. There's no differentiation between children that are living with a life-limiting illness.
I mean, schools and authorities will argue. I mean, obviously, you've explained your case, which will seem valid to many people watching at home this morning. But a lot of schools and councils will say, look, if we make one rule for one, another rule for everyone else, we get into difficult territory because people can come up with, their own circumstances and then children are being taken out of school left, right and centre. But you were charged a total of £120. Did you pay that fine?
Yes.
Did you challenge it?
Yes, we challenged it, but we were told it was better for us to pay the fine and then to go ahead and challenge it. Otherwise, we were going to face a criminal conviction or prosecution, which is daunting because we're just trying to make memories with our son. And it's a bit unfair to be penalised because education is paramount, but that's for a future. What if we're trying to live in the present with our son? And that's the really difficult scenario.
Nazleen, would you do it again? Because presumably, Raihan, there are going to be circumstances again where, he's well enough to take a holiday with his family, like you said, create those memories. Exactly. Would you do it again and pay the fine, or have you had a conversation with the local council to try and come to some kind of agreement? Now they know Raihan's circumstances.
No, I don't think they're very understanding, but we're fortunate enough to have contact with the Cystic Fibrosis Holiday Funds that are making it dreams for children whose family may not be able to afford to go on holiday, that are going to give people the chance of going on holiday. And there's a CLC World Resort who are ready to pay the fine for children with cystic fibrosis. God forbid if they're in a scenario where they have to choose whether they want to spend quality time with their children or risk paying extra money or being prosecuted. Yeah. So there's help out there, but it's just a shame that that we're all being painted with the same brush and that there's no rules or exceptions for people with different situations and scenarios. I think that's
Nazleen, we do have to leave it there, but thank you very much for coming on to tell us your story. Nazleen Ebrahim there, who was fined for taking her son Raihan out of school during term time for a holiday. Raihan can't travel during allocated school holidays because he has cystic fibrosis. They don't know whether or when he'll be well enough to travel, as it creates a tricky situation. Thank you, Nazleen.